Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mondays with Moss. My goodness, here we are again. So I've been thinking about this whole series, okay? And what occurred to me over the weekend was this notion of um, um, bouncing back, bouncing back 1 week at a time. And maybe it's a function of a couple of things. One is I look at what I can do to keep myself focused and going forward, not giving up, being resilient. And also, a lot of my clients and patients have a hard time. They often say, like, they can hold it together after a session for maybe 3, 4, 5 days. Then they start to feel the old regressive forces pulling them back, feeling the weight, and it's hard to bounce back. So, therapy is often about coaching, encouraging people to stay focused on what they want, what's important, take those actions that move them towards their goals, and to be resilient. And when they do falter, not to take it too personally, not to get too depressed or feel like they're failing. So I want to start with a quote. This is a quote by Mr. Rogers. Often when we think you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else. We say again, often when you think you're at the end of something, you're at the beginning of something else. Well, this series of Mondays with Moss is a program designed to give you ideas, actions, strategies, a point of view, a way of thinking to help you let go of your regrets, your resentments, be aware of your anxieties and your worries, and to create an extraordinary future to live into, a direction to go, like a GPS. But basically, honestly, it's not an idea. You just don't do it with an idea. You really have to let go of something that you've been attached to, an old habit, an addiction, and start doing something different. And you might be in one of 3 groups of these series. You might be listening and actually doing something. You might be actually taking what I'm saying seriously and saying, I like this. He makes sense. I'm going to try it. You may listen and do nothing. It's just like, okay, you have 15 minutes to waste. I'll hear him out. And then again, you can listen but feel overwhelmed and feel like, what's the point of it? Nothing's really going to help. Okay, so when I think about people who bounce back, I think I'm a pretty good backer. But there are others who I enjoy, who may make more sense to you, because when you think about bouncing back, you may not think about me, but you can think about Rocky. Now, Rocky, remember, kept bouncing back, getting down and out guy, a loser, but he had a chance, he had a dream, maybe to be a champion, to fight the champion, scared to death. And when he was in the fight, he was getting the crap knocked out of him, but he kept getting up, he kept bouncing back. Helen Keller, famous Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf and had to struggle through fury and anxiety, but she had a dream that she could communicate with people. Nelson Mandela, he was Afro-American who was in prison for, I think, about 27 years in the lime pits. And the British hoped he would go blind with the lime, but he didn't. And actually, he became an inspirational leader to both the inmates and the guards. And eventually, he led South Africa into independence and a democracy. There's John McCain, who was locked up in Hanoi prison for 6 years. And when he had a chance to leave, he said, no, I'm not going to leave because I'm not going to leave without my men. So he and his men had to keep figuring out how to handle the torture and keep bouncing back. And there's Edison. Edison's one of my heroes. So I like the quote by Edison. I've not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Isn't that great? What a great way to keep his attitude. I call these people life navigators. These life navigators were determined, they had a dream, they're resilient, they kept learning from defeat and moving on. That's really it. Have a dream, take actions, be resilient, learn from your mistakes, bounce back, move on. Well, something has happened to all of us around the world, and right now in the United States. Very powerful this year. We met a beast. We met a goddamn beast. The virus, the COVID virus is the beast. It snuck into our country in January, almost 12 months ago, but 11 months ago. And like a missile carrying a silent, invisible disease that grew in intensity. It grew in intensity like a tsunami, killing 300,000 people. So it will kill 300,000 people at least, I think, by the end of this month, inflicting 15 million people and impacting the lives of at least 3 million people. I mean, if you have someone in your family who died, it's impacting you and all the other members of your family, your extended family and your friends. So I'm just suggesting at a minimum 3 million people have been impacted by the death of someone who got this disease. And if you got the disease and you're out of work and there's lack of money, it just creates havoc. So there may be tens of millions of people who've been affected. It's the silent beast that really is beating many of us up. So also we've been dealing with, so hang in there with me, I'll get a little more optimistic in a minute. Also kind of like if you've ever been on a highway pile up on a foggy night, we've been kind of overloaded with, when cars and trucks bounce off each other and like you get these pileups of 30, 40 cars and it's a mess. But we've been bombarded by a highway crash of political crises or chaos, so racial unrest, fear of the other, social isolation, and uncertainty. All this creates a state of trauma. In fact, multiple traumas. I may not have used this expression before, but I think most of us, if not all of us, are experiencing trauma. And we got to find a way to deal with it. Okay? Trauma, basically, is a deeply disturbing or distressing event or a series of events, often leading to long-term anxiety or neurosis. Long-term anxiety and feeling, I'll tell you what that means in a minute, but I want to read this again. Trauma is a deeply disturbing or distressing event or a series of events or experiences, often leading to long-term anxiety and neurosis. It's one in which something happens we have no adequate response, like we're being pinned down and being pummeled and beaten up. Car crash, tree falls on us. The virus. The problem with the virus is goddamn invisible. We don't see it. But it's there and it's beating us up. We have no adequate response. We have an adequate response, but many people are not doing it. It affects our ability to cope. We often feel it's beyond our capacity, feeling a sense of powerlessness. This results in feeling unsafe. See if you can relate to this. You feel unsafe. I don't want to go out. I can't be with people. Feeling afraid to take a walk. Feeling afraid to go to the grocery store. A feeling of helplessness. Losing a sense of control. Loss of relationships and connection. Depression. Loss of personal power. Anger. Increase in anxiety and suicides. We've had a radical increase in anxiety, but maybe 30-40% over the past year, and a phenomenal increase in adolescent suicides. It's kind of like a dark ages we've been in, okay? Without clear, I don't think clear leadership, any place. And we're kind of like in a sailboat, floundering in a typhoon in the sea. The boat can only take so much pounding before resilience falters and burnout takes over, especially when you think no one really cares, okay? Many feel it's every man for himself without a safety net. Trauma, this is what trauma is about. What I just said, that these conditions prevail, and you feel any of that, you're going to experience trauma. You may not feel it in your body and your mind, but it's there and it will show up. Trauma treatment requires a support system and a sense that someone cares. I can do something about it. So even when it's over, even when this is over, we're getting a vaccine. Hopefully all of us, 60%, 70%, 80%. Hi, Paul. Love your post. Eventually, when it's over, we will get the vaccine, but even when it's over, the trauma is going to continue in the form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress reaction. Maybe 30%, 35% of us are going to experience it. It may go underground first, but it will reemerge. It will reemerge either in us, our spouses, or our children. Okay? So that's a lot. It's a lot to contend with. The vaccine will not take it away. I'm sorry to tell you that. However, we have a hope. The vaccine will save us eventually, but it will not get rid of the trauma, from my point of view. However, there is a way we can deal with it. We have a map. We can use a map to regain control, a sense of connection and safety. So let's get some control back. Trauma doesn't have to win. We win by regaining a sense of control. I can do something. For example, putting on my mask and using sanitizer and resisting the urge to be with my friends and hugging them. Even though it bothers me, I'm in control and I feel like I'm doing something. I think our nervous system picks that up and says, wow, that's great. What's this doing something? So we win by regaining a sense of control, safety, and connection. And if you use the Navigating for Life formula that we've been talking about, if you go back and take a look at some past videos, it's a formula that can act as a GPS or as a guide that takes us out of the dark and anxiety into control and the light. Trauma is not something you get over quickly. It takes patience and practice. It takes time, but there are things we can do to deal with it and quiet the emotions and the memory that's going to be lodged in many of our bodies. You may not be consciously thinking it, but it's going to be there. Okay, at least that's what I think as a psychotherapist and coach. Okay, so I have an idea. A number of years ago, I wrote a book, 52 Things You Need to Know. No, I'm not going to say do 52 things. That's impossible. And sometimes I think my talks are too much anyway either. However, I think we can do 1 week at a time. 1 week at a time. One action a week. That's all it is. I'll focus on one thing, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's it. Jane Lustgarten, good to see you. Good to see you. We can do one thing at a time for 1 week, okay? And what it does is it helps us get our feet on the ground, not feel overwhelmed. So the Japanese have an expression. It's called the art of the Kaizen, I think. Kaizen, one step at a time. It kind of relates to the question, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I was talking with a couple last night who felt totally overwhelmed by a family situation. And I said to them, so let's take a look where we can start. And they said, no, we got to do a lot. I said, no, we can't do a lot. We'll fail. I will fail. I'm not going to try to eat an elephant. It's too much. But we can do one step at a time. And I made a suggestion, and they liked that. And so we're going to do some work together. So the art of what we're talking about, to regain control and to beat this beast, the invisible plague, but also the beast of the trauma, is to do one thing at a time, one small step. Okay? And basically what we're going to do, each week I'm going to tell you a little story about myself, maybe a client, maybe something I read. I'm going to give you an action, one action you can take, and maybe a moral, a parable, or a proverb that will kind of pull it together. And that's it. Now, I'm going to do this, I think, for 12 weeks. So we've been in the plague for almost a year. So I'm not going to say commit to doing this for 52 weeks. But I'm inviting you to give this a chance. Play the game with me for 12 weeks. There'll be some breaks over Christmas. And once a week, I'm going to give you an action that you can take. And we'll see how it works. The first one, I was thinking about managing conflict first, because we're in such a state of ridiculous conflict and polarization and who's right, who's wrong, Republican versus Democrat. It's pretty disgusting, you know. Human beings are designed to take care of each other, and we're not taking care of each other, from my point of view. And I'd like to see what we can do to create more of a sense of interest and collaboration and reduce the anxiety and the anger. So I'll get to conflict, no question about it. Extremely important. Might be even the second or third topic. But the first one is just getting grounded to take action. Getting grounded to take action. You ever watch a sprinter? Before he starts running, he gets himself grounded in his starting blocks and gets a feel for the ground, takes a deep breath. If you ever watch almost anybody who's going to, like a basketball player taking a foul shot, he's standing at the line, just doesn't go up and just take a shot. He gets himself grounded. He gets himself breathing, composed. He goes into the flow. There's a great movie, what was it? Not A Tin Cup, but The Greatest Game Ever Played. One of those movies where there's a contest, and Damon, one of the players, is just too anxious, and he loses himself. He's not grounded until his caddy says, see the field. I'll tell you about that another time. See the field. And when he does, he just sees what's going on, not the competitors, not the people in the stands watching him, booing him or urging him on, but he starts to calm down. So you need to create a sense of safety, a sense of being grounded. And there's a way of doing that. You cannot do it by thinking about what you're worrying about. You get into thinking about what you're worried about, the trauma is gonna say, oh good, I got him, I got him. Because the trauma is like a goddamn parasite. It will just get you to continue to worry, regret, and be resentful, and be scared. So I want to start the first one with this. Let's just get grounded. Just get our feet on the ground, catch our breath, and prepare for taking action. Then I'll figure out the next one, which might be conflict. I'm not sure. It's all based on my book, 52 Things You Need to Know, which is on Amazon. If you want to get it, that's great. But in any case, for the few of you looking in live today, or letting me know you're here, great. Good to see you. I hope you join me next Monday for the beginning. Life is you let something go. When it ends, something begins. So trauma is another invisible result of this plague. At least 30% of us are going to feel the PTSD, and that ain't going to happen on my watch. So I'm going to do my best I can to give you support, some guidance, some actions, and some exercises you can take to really get yourself settled. And one exercise a week, one action a week. Hopefully you can do it each day. It'll only take you about 5 minutes. That's all it's going to be. And that's it. If you do it 5 or 6 or 7 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, you'll start to feel like you got some control. And that's where we're going to beat the beast, one bite at a time. Okay, guys. See you in a week. Stay warm. Hope you have a good week.